I have met James Stafford from Avery Dennison. And James, you just gave a presentation about the status and the possibilities for RFID. I thought that RFID was 10 years ago, it was a hype around it, and then it's been a little bit more quiet, but you say that it's more lively as ever. Is that true?
Yes, we're seeing tremendous growth now in RFID. Of course, with all new technologies, there's hype to start with, but eventually people work out where the real and true business value is, and there is tremendous business value in RFID. It's worked particularly well in the clothing area because clothing is very complex. Not many people know this, but there's probably 64 different size variations of a woman's bra, and probably 30 different variations in sizes of a lot of people of shoes. RFID deals very well with complexity. In a retail store, there are probably 250,000 different size variations, and it makes it very complex for retailers to understand what they've actually got. So the great thing about RFID is that you can scan many thousands of garments and actually get a very detailed picture of what you've got in the store or anywhere else in the supply chain.
If we once again look back, let's say 10 years, what has happened with the technique during those last 10 years? Is there any sort of improvement, or has anything happened? Is it still the same technique, or what has happened in the last 10 years?
Well, there's been two major changes in the last 10 years. First of all, the technology's got much better and more mature. The tags are much more sensitive and more easy to read, and the readers themselves are much faster at reading the tags. And the software to connect the two together is also much more advanced. The other thing that's happened is there's been a general agreement on standards across the industry. So now if you buy an RFID reader and you buy RFID tags, if you buy them to the right standards, you'll know that every reader works with every tag. And this standardization approach has meant that people can go ahead with confidence because they know that their technology solution is future-proofed.
Okay, and also something that has been discussed many times when it comes to RFID is that it's too expensive. Has anything happened to the price?
The price, of course, has come down, both of the tags and indeed of all of the technology associated with it. And as the price has come down, coupled with the maturity of the technology, this has driven much better business cases. So now we definitely see RFID driving value. In fact, we have very little discussion now about price of RFID. It's much more about the applications and how it can give value to individual businesses.
Okay, and on this presentation you gave today, you talked a lot about the food, the retail and the food products and the food waste. This is a new area for RFID, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. Most of the development of RFID over the last 10 years has been in the clothing apparel areas. That is a mature business now and it's working very well. We see that foods are the next big opportunity. In some ways, foods are simpler than clothing because there's less variance in size. But of course, foods have the additional complexity of shelf life. And you could have the same product in the store with five or six different use-by dates on the same product. And that creates a complexity. And as I said before, RFID deals very well with complexity. So now you have an automatic method of actually capturing the data of what you've got. Not only what product you've got, but what shelf life is on those products, right through the supply chain.
And does the retailers really understand this? Is this an interesting topic for them?
They're coming to understand it. There are major retailers in the UK and in Europe that have definitely adopted the technology and starting to move forward. But it's a new area for us as well. And what I'm doing is speaking a lot to retailers about it. And we are designing the technology to fulfill their needs. So we know we've got a mature technology that works well. Now it's a question of making sure we've got the right tags and readers to actually work well in a food scenario.
What is the connection between RFID and reduced food waste? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, there are many causes of food waste, but food waste is something that food retailers have to deal with and is a real drain on their profits. Part of the problem with food is that you have on display the same item with many different sell-by dates or use-by dates. And that means that the only way you can really work out what you have got, both in your stock rooms and on display, is by actually going and manually checking, reading the dates on the food. And this is a slow process. RFID offers the opportunity to scan products very quickly, maybe up to 10,000 an hour, and actually find out what you've got. And not just what you've got in terms of product, but what you've got in terms of use-by dates. And of course, once you've got that information, that gives you the opportunity to deal with any forthcoming problems, either by increasing your displays or by reducing the price, so that rather than food ending up as waste and being thrown away, you're able to offer it to the customer at a better price and give the customer a treat and also reduce your overall waste bill.
Okay, but I mean, still, there is a price on a tag for RFID, an RFID tag. I suppose this is not for every kind of food. We won't see it on a milk carton today, for example.
No, I think at the moment, the individual item level tagging of foods is probably going to be restricted to the slightly higher price foods such as meat and poultry and fish. But of course, these are items that create a lot of waste in the store for the retailer. Where we've got cheaper fresh food items with short lives, there what retailers are doing is they're actually tagging the delivery tray or delivery carton of the product that comes into the store. This is not quite such a good solution as tagging the individual item, but of course it's more cost effective because the cost of the RFID tag is carried across multiple food items. And if it's a permanent RFID tag on a returnable tray, then of course you're carrying that cost over multiple journeys. So this is definitely happening in Europe at the moment.
You mentioned a level around, was it $6 for a good return on investment if the products are priced over $6? Or do I remember it right?
Yes, well, if we just look at the saving in waste, if you make the assumption, and it's very reasonable, that you can reduce your waste by 20% through better knowledge, then certainly you'll get a break even on the technology cost at around about $6. €5.5, £4. But in addition to those savings, we believe there's almost as big a saving to be made in the labour savings in the store. And this is what we're really exploring at the moment with retailers, not only the size of the waste saving, but the size of the labour saving that can be made by using this more efficient technology.
Is there a connection between volume and the price of the tag? I mean, we will see the price of the tags go down with increasing use of them?
Yes, we've already seen the price of the tags come down with the use we've seen on apparel. Currently, we believe that next year there's going to be around about 6 billion tag items on apparel, and that has a big influence on price. But if you look at the sort of volumes that are involved with food, which could actually be 10 times higher, then we see much further opportunities for everybody to get better value. But in the end, of course, there's always a price for new technology.
Would, for example, printed electronics technique be a way to produce RFID tags in the future?
Well, at the moment, we still think that silicon is the king in this. The printed electronics would have to be cheaper and more robust and as scalable as silicon. There's a tremendous history in silicon. We at Avery Dennison buy the silicon chips from some of the best suppliers in the world, and then everything else in terms of the antennas and the labels and tickets we produce ourselves. So printable electronics may have a future, but of course it has to compete against silicon, and the silicon industry is very big and very well established.
But is there a capacity in the world to produce more tags? I mean, how does it look?
Yes, we think there is plenty of capacity. The technologies of manufacturing tags have improved. It's become much faster. So we don't believe there's any problem with capacity for the manufacture of the tags, or indeed capacity for manufacture of the chips, as we see it at the moment.
And RFID in this case, when we look in the shops at the retailers, it's mainly to be used by the retailers themselves, not by the consumers.
Yes, at the moment it's the retailers themselves that are driving the business case for the use of technology. That doesn't mean there won't be opportunities for consumer interaction with their phones or other devices in the future, but at the moment it really is the retailers that are driving the technology, and once the technology has been used by the retailers, we see other people in the supply chain also using it. The distribution companies are starting to use it, and ultimately we believe the manufacturers will use it as well, because they'll be required to do that by the retailers.
But with an RFID tag, you can collect a huge amount of data. Is this a problem? Is this a topic for the retailers to understand what they really need to get into the system, so to say?
Well, you're right. Nobody needs any more data in this world. What you need is a good software package to take that data and turn it into something useful for a business. So the issue is not having too much data. The issue is that you need to have the right software and produce the right reports. In order to get the right reports, you have to know what questions you want to ask and what benefits you're looking for. So when we're looking at any sort of RFID deployment, we don't start talking about the technology, we talk about the benefits. What is the business case? So the first stage in any RFID deployment is to establish the business case, examine what benefits the retailer or anybody else wants, and then be very clear about the key performance indicators for that technology. And once you're clear about the benefits, then you can design your solution to deliver those benefits.
Okay, to end this up, you don't see the printed electronics as a competing technique to RFID as it looks today?
No, we don't see it as a competing technique at all. It's a new technique, and there may be situations where it is more beneficial to use printed electronics than it is to use silicon. It's hard to predict the future. It's great that this development is going on, and we look forward to all these opportunities taking place.
Okay, thank you very much, James.
Thank you.